In the last video with Volex Liam Gannon, we talked about the transition period of what to feed calves when they arrive. I'm joined now with Volex Rebecca Sullivan, and we're going to talk milk replacer. I suppose starting off, Rebecca, how much milk replacer should we be feeding and how do we mix it?
Yeah, so I suppose we'd be recommending 6 litres in total in a day, and that's with 750 grams of powder. So at that rate, you're being fed at 12.5% solids, the same as whole milk. So that's the recommendation. But I suppose the biggest thing is that obviously you're buying in these calves, they're coming maybe 2 weeks of age, so it's getting them used to that new system. So starting them off on 4 litres, maybe first day, building them up to 6 over the first 3 or 4 days to get them back in form, just to make sure that there's no issues scouring, that they're settling in, that there's no stresses on the calves. And with the mixing, the most important thing is that it's within the litre. So every litre, it's 125 grams of powder plus 875 mils of water. That's making your litre, and it's 6 of those a day. So twice a day feeding, 3 litres morning, 3 litres in the evening. With mixing, I suppose there's a few important things that farmers have to realise. If you're buying your product, ideally buy the amount that you need. So buy your pallet if you're going to use a pallet, so then it's the same batch. Wait the first time, because obviously different batches, if you're using a scoop, it mightn't be exactly 100 or 200 grams. So weigh the first lot, and then you know that's always the weight that you're working with. Make sure your water is max of above 40, 42 degrees. If it's higher than that, or if your bag is telling you it needs higher than that, it just means there's a lot of vegetable protein in it, and that's going to burn your dairy. So you could be buying a 23% product, and if you're overheating it, you're bringing it back to 19 or 20% because you're just burning that value in it. So make sure you're mixing at the right temperature, at the right rate, and just be consistent in what you do every day. It's the most important thing with calves. You have to be consistent, morning and evening, have similar times and similar rate of feeding.
And I suppose we've had pretty cold weather over the last couple of days. Do we have to jump up feeding rates in cold weather?
Yeah, so I suppose when you look at it, on a grand day, everything's fine, nothing wrong with a calf. They're going to need 380 to 400 grams of powder for just maintenance. That's purely survival. So that's 2.5 litres of whole milk, basically. So obviously, for the first 3 weeks, their thermoneutral temperature is much higher. So you're talking about maybe 20 degrees. So obviously, it's not that ever in Ireland. So they do have a higher requirement for maintenance. And I suppose if you want to maximise their growth, feed a bit more. So for every 10-degree drop below that thermoneutral, give them an extra 100 grams of powder. And it's really important that if they have a higher maintenance requirement, get that into them so you're not like sacrificing your growth. Keep your targets. You need to be hitting 0.7 to 0.8 kilos a day live weight gain to get those animals to be finishing at the right weight. And the best time to get is in the first 2 months of life.
And just regarding systems and feeding systems, Rebecca, is there a difference between a computerized feeder or a teat feeder, or are they all the same?
Yeah, like obviously there's differences in them. Like the biggest thing with a computerized system is that it's labour. That's the biggest thing it's going to help with. It's going to always be consistently feeding. It's feeding little and often throughout the day. So it is helping to promote a higher intake of meal from an earlier age. Calves are never fully full of it, so they'll eat more meal. You get better intakes on straw, so better rumen development from an earlier age. But every system works and has been proven to work as long as you're consistent in what you do. That's the most important thing with calves. Making sure you're cleaning your stuff correctly, make sure you're mixing correctly, and that you're following the same program. And if there's a change that you need to make it slowly. It's all about gradual stuff with calves. So every system will work, you just have to do it consistently.
Okay, and just one more thing, you mentioned there about feeding concentrates. When do we go in with concentrates and how much do we feed?
So you'd probably be introducing from about 3 days of age. So obviously if you're buying in the calves, straight away giving to them. Giving a small bit at the start and keeping it fresh. You're giving, high flaked materials. So, flake maize is very good. Something with molasses to just get them, I suppose, introduced to it and want to start picking at it. Keeping it fresh and a small bit out at it each day until intakes start to grow. Once you're on 300, 400, 500 grams of it, you can start introducing a calf nut from that point. So like an 18% nut. Then obviously once they're finished, and when you're getting to the point where you're thinking of, can I start weaning off, can I start dropping milk, they'd want to be eating at least 1 kilo before you start dropping your milk back, and be finishing on 1.5 kilos to 2 kilos of meal. That's when you know they're ready, they're finished.
Thanks very much, Rebecca.
Okay, thanks.